Is Costco raising membership prices? Historically, Costco raises its annual base membership fees every 5 years. And the last time we got an increase was in 2017. So technically, we're due for an increase. Due to inflation and fears of a recession, the reality is that a membership fee increase could cause Costco members to decide not to renew. In response to inflation, Costco shoppers have already started tightening their wallets and are purchasing less beef and steaks. And you better believe those in the Costco office have taken notice. So if you've been bracing for a Costco membership fee hike, it appears that we'll have a little bit longer to wait before shelling out money. Thank you, Costco, for the break, because too many corporations have used this inflation as an opportunity to hike prices and overcharge consumers instead of keeping prices stable for the betterment of society. It's often profit over the people. And thank you, Costco, for stepping out of the money grubbing box. Thank you. Sally Harris is a mom of an adult child who has traveled a difficult road. And while her daughter's life spun out of control, Sally's was doing the same. Sound familiar? The journey of making a 180-degree shift begins when you realize that you need to work on yourself, whether your adult child is okay or not. This has given Sally a passion for helping other desperate moms, just like you, regain a sense of self amid the challenges that come with your adult children's poor life choices. Sally is not a certified therapist. She's a mom who's been there. A decade of addiction, depression, and anxiety, aka living in the pit, also known as living in the pit. If you find yourself deep in a pit or maybe just teetering on the edge of one, you are urged to seek help for yourself and for your family. So let's welcome my guest, Sally Harris, as she shares how to give up perceived control of our adult children. Sally, thank you so much. This is a much needed topic. I have several friends who are going through the same problem, which caused me to seek you out and find you on YouTube.
Thank you for having me, Sunita. Appreciate it.
So the main problem, I guess, from the title of the topic that you chose, that moms are having or parents are having with their children, not making the best life choices, comes from them having or wanting to control their adult children?
Yeah, I see that a lot. And it's primarily what was one of my core issues is as moms, we raise our children typically from birth, whether we adopt them or we, give birth to them. We have this sense of control, which we do have, right? Our job is to protect them, to feed them, nurture them, make sure they're safe and all of that. And what happens is many times us moms, especially, I can't speak to the dads, but it's both parents, but I work primarily with the moms. And what we do is we tend to forget to start teetering off of that as they grow a little bit older, junior high, high school. Many moms don't give the responsibility to their children. We tend to still try to control, sometimes some moms control their actions, some moms control their schedule, some moms really are thinking for their kids. And it's not out of, they're not doing this because they're bad moms. We become so attached and many times codependent to our children. A lot of moms that I work with are single moms. And so they've raised these kids by themselves, or even the married moms. Sometimes maybe they don't have the support system. And we tend to become quote unquote friends with our kids when they're still young. And we continue to nurture and we forget when to start handing over that responsibility. And so that's kind of where it starts.
Okay. So, I have heard of like friends who are paying their almost 30-year-old children their rents maybe the child, grown adult, I should say, not child, grown adult won't get a full-time job. What are the many issues that you're coming across? And how does a parent, I mean, I know there's no blanket answers, but what are some of the tips that you give to make changes?
Right. Well, obviously, if I could give some tips to make changes before an estrangement happens, because many of the moms I work with are already estranged, meaning sometimes they have zero contact with their son or daughter, and not usually because that's what they want. Many times they're just cut off. And we've been seeing a lot of that lately in the last couple of years. And it's really sad, because there is no agree to disagree anymore. And unfortunately, and so the moms come to me and they're finding themselves in a situation like that. Or if you back up a little bit, like you mentioned, the 30-year-old who doesn't want to get a job. Well, you typically, there's a quote from, I think it's John Maxwell, and it goes something like, if we don't ever give our children the wings to fly on their own, they're never going to know what they're made of. They're never going to know how powerful they really are. And they don't have that sense of achievement or a sense of being able to do something on their own. Now, mind you, sometimes there's addiction. Sometimes there's mental illness. There's a lot of reasons and factors of why these things happen. And no two families are the same. I have learned that very well. In my own family was different as well. But at the end of the day, it's our job as a mom now with grown children, with grown adults, sons and daughters. It's our job, I believe, if we are enabling them, we need to wean off of that. And the only ways that moms can do that is one step at a time. It isn't always this cold turkey, because a lot of moms feel like that's cruel, that's mean. How do I not pay their cell phone bill? How do I not pay their rent? That's what I've been doing forever. Well, you haven't given them any reason to be uncomfortable. Now, obviously, it's different with addiction. You don't want to give money to an addict. And I speak to that. I had an alcohol addiction during this period of time with my own daughter. So, but when there's drugs involved and it is hindering their life from working or, holding that job or paying any, having a good, comfortable, be a productive member of society, when that's hindering that, that's when moms have to realize, I am a firm believer to always offer help. I don't believe that's enabling. If you have the means and you want to offer any type of therapy or, any type of help with an addiction or mental illness or anything like that, absolutely. I 100% will stand behind that. But there's it's a difference between doing that and paying their cell phone bill or paying their rent because you feel like you have to, or maybe they're being bullied into doing that. There's so many different circumstances on what could be happening.
So you mentioned a lot of the moms who are in your group are I'm not getting the word proper.
Estranged
from their adult child. That's definitely not the child who's looking to get their bills paid.
Correct. Sometimes it's because mom did stop paying the bills, right? And so whatever the child's accustomed to, there's a lot of different reasons, like I said, a lot of different situations. So I don't want to, label any family, but at the end of the day, whatever the reason that caused the estrangement, the mom is struggling. So the mom needs to take care of herself in this process. Whether you're fully estranged, you're starting to have like your adult son or daughter is extremely disrespectful or defiant towards you, or even emotional abusive. I see a lot of that as well. And that's when we have to create boundaries, right? Just like you would anyone else in your life that was treating you that way. But not every mom has the strength to do that. And that's where my group comes in.
Okay. Is this, I'm wondering, is this more prevalent now because more people feel entitled? Have you noticed an increase, or is it this has just been going on forever? It's like pretty much the same.
I think it's been going on for a very long time. I think it increased in 2020, to be honest with you. There's a lot of family strife just for a variety of reasons where people can't agree to disagree on different topics. And unfortunately, it's dividing our families, which is sad because there's, like I said, they don't want to agree to disagree. one side or the other, typically the child, because at least that's my perspective, because the moms are the ones coming to me and I'm hearing these stories. And it's very saddening. And so, but like I said, with that, whether it's full estrangement or, I even have a lot of moms who have grandchildren
Mm.
and they're being taken from them. They're not allowed to see them or visit them. And that's something that some adult sons and daughters, that's the game that some will play, unfortunately. But that's just another example of what moms go through.
So why did the pandemic, why do you think that's increased this problem?
I think a lot of people, I think depression really got amplified with a lot of people, the whole working remote or maybe not working at all. Those are the kinds of stories that I've heard. And so the strain on the family, the strain on finances, the strain, mental illness, being just kind of withdrawn from society, staying home, all of those kinds of things. I've heard a lot of different stories like that.
Hmm. Do you think also part of it is that a lot of kids are growing up thinking that life is going to be easy? Things are going to fall in their lap easily. They'll come out of high school or college and be able to get a six-figure job, or just because they went to an Ivy League, they'll get a six-figure job. And then reality is kicking them in the butt, because a lot of times it doesn't work out. I mean, life often doesn't work out as we planned, and we go through ups and valleys and changes and unexpected circumstances, and we're not prepared for that.
Right. Absolutely. And that goes back to um, a lot of families, when it goes back to the enabling piece with having this control over your child, and they haven't learned consequences. They haven't learned those kinds of things because mom or dad, picked up the pieces all the time, and there was no suffering. There was no issues at hand because everything appeared smooth to them. They always had money. They always had, the things that they needed. And then the magic number of 18, which you and I both know, in the eyes of the law, it's a magic number, but kids aren't ready. Most kids are not ready. We have to, their brains aren't even fully developed until 25 and 27. So, it doesn't give them an excuse, but it explains some things, right? They still, they're still going to make mistakes. And for me, for the moms that still have kids at home, one thing I wish I would have done a little bit better is allow them to make mistakes while they're still under your roof, because you can be there to help and guide them. And that's how they learn, rather than wait until they go to college, and they're still going to make their share of mistakes there too, right? We all do. But you and I both know that the mistakes that we make in life is how we learn,
And the loss.
right? Hard times make us stronger.
Absolutely. That might be a book or another workshop for you, working with moms who have teenagers, and they can catch some of those potential issues now, like start training them now, because there is no book on how to be a parent or a class on how to be a parent. Um, what is, I know you said a lot of the women in your workshop, in your webinar, are currently
Changed.
estranged. I have a little bit of lisp, a little bit of
Oh, you're good.
impediment from their adult children. Is there a common denominator that's prevalent in that? Or maybe you already mentioned it.
As far as the cause of it,
Yeah.
yeah, and the sad part of this is I have some moms that I work with that are in my group coaching program that they honestly don't even know for sure why the estrangement happened. Many times there's a boyfriend or a girlfriend involved that comes into their child's life that might be controlling, that might be narcissistic. I hear a lot of that. To where the son or daughter literally changed their tune. They treat mom differently. They cut them off, or they'll ask for, whether they're asking for extra money, they're asking for other favors, and if mom says no, they cut them off. So it's really a situation. It's really a case by case basis, but a lot of that tends to there's some factors that are very similar in a lot of the cases, and that is usually when there's a boyfriend or a girlfriend involved.
Mm. Can you share maybe 2 or 3 quick tips for someone who's in that situation right now?
Yeah. Well, for the moms that are maybe struggling with communication with their child, maybe they're not estranged, but it's kind of rocky and it's really uncomfortable. It's not fun right now. Um, I would encourage you to have open communication. I believe we have 2 ears and one mouth for a reason, and we really need to listen, because whatever is going on in your child's mind of why they're so angry, you might learn a lot by listening. And remember that their perspective is their reality. Their perception is their reality. You don't have to agree with it. You may have been in the same room when something was done or said, and you know what happened, and they have their perception. It doesn't matter. It doesn't pay to argue with them on that. It really boils down to people want to be heard, and that includes your kids. So it doesn't mean you have to apologize for something that you didn't do. But if it's appropriate and there was something that you did, I would encourage you to make that apology to them and apologize even just for their feelings. Just say, you know what, I'm sorry that you feel that way. It doesn't matter that I don't remember it the same way. I can see how much it hurts you.
That's powerful.
Because there is so much power in that. People want to be heard. And a lot of times kids are just feeling so disoriented and they feel like they're not understood. And sometimes by the people that they love the most and that are the closest to them, like mom, right? Another thing I would say is encourage, if you have a child that maybe they're, I know your listeners are, a little bit, they're not young moms, but they're not necessarily, some are older, some are not. The moms that still have kids, whether they're living at home, or maybe they just moved out, college age type children, encourage their personal growth, encourage their independence, be supportive, don't give unsolicited advice. They'll come to you if they want your advice. Yeah, that's a hard one. That's a hard one, but I promise you, the moms in my group that I've helped that practice that, it's so exciting to see them come back to group and say, I did it. I said that. I didn't give advice. I just listened and the conversation went really well. So it's exciting. Sometimes it's just these little shifts that can make such a big difference in any relationship, but obviously when it comes to your child, because they're looking hopefully up to you because you're mom, right? And so it's hard when we feel disrespected, which a lot of moms do. And so I can understand that. So just encouraging that personal growth and being mindful of not giving advice and just loving them where they're at. That's the biggest thing, I think, because loving them where they're at, you don't have to agree with the job that they have. You don't have to agree with the friends that they have. You don't have to like their boyfriend or girlfriend. But at the end of the day, they have their path in life and you have yours. And we're talking about adults. We're not talking, teenager, where it's your responsibility to guide them and protect them. Once they're adults, they're going to make their own decisions. And what I've seen more and more is too many parents will cut the child off because they don't agree with something, or they'll make remarks, or they'll, say these things that put a wedge in between the relationship, when in reality, you don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it, but just love them where they're at. And sometimes you'll be amazed. Sometimes you're just loving them through a season. It doesn't mean that life is going to be that way forever. And I would say my last tip would be, just because it looks this way today doesn't mean it's going to stay that way forever. I had this situation with my daughter for over a decade, from start to finish, before she came back in our life, whole and healed. But I promise you, there were very, very dark years where I truly didn't believe that would ever happen. I really never thought I'd see her again.
Yeah.
And to know and to realize that you have, this is what we have to acknowledge, that yes, this is what today looks like. As of right now, this is where we're at. It's not how I want it to be, but it doesn't mean that's what it's going to look like next week or next month or next year. And so to never, ever, ever give up hope.
Yeah. It's a powerful thing. The statement you made about listening and not trying to control their life. I have a parent friend who happened to be a father, And he said that he used to always say, I told you so, I told you so. And then he realized that he had to stop and stop trying to control his adult child's life. And when he stopped doing that, as that adult child went through things, later that adult child came back and said, wow, Dad, you were right all along. And he still refrained from saying, I told you so. And the adult child is like, I wish I had listened. And he still avoids saying, making any comments. And I told him, I said, you know what, it's actually either way, your child, adult, needed to go through what they went through, because otherwise they would have blamed you had they not gone through what they gone through. It's like you don't know what could have occurred until it occurs, until you're past it. So, and that was a lesson for him, to stop controlling with the image of what he wanted his child to do and to be and to date, et cetera, et cetera. We all have to learn on our own, and it's not easy, but it's life for all of us.
Absolutely. And that's a great example, because really, if he would have continued saying, told you so, the ears are closed. His son's ears were closed at that point. But when he stopped, he was more open, because they already know how you feel. A lot of moms feel like we have to continue to tell them on a daily basis that this is wrong, that is wrong, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
They already know how you feel.
Wow. So how would a potential client reach you? Do you have like what is it called? Like a free consultation, the groups? Please share everything that anyone would need. A grandmother can reach out to you regarding their adult child and their grandchildren. There's no
absolutely. Right. Yeah, I work with moms who have kids anywhere from 18 to, I think 55 was the oldest. So yeah, all different ages. So I have a discovery call, which we can have the link there. And that is the first step. It's a consultation where I can understand, it's 30 minutes where I can understand more about what is going on with the situation, and then how it's affecting the mom, because that will help me determine if, how I could help them. And then I can give them some options. But as of right now, I currently have, I have my group coaching program. It's called Grit and Grace. And that is a group coaching program with moms. We meet twice a week. And so I can share more info on that. I have my YouTube channel. It's under Sally Harris. And I currently have I'm working on a workshop series for this summer. We'll be doing a workshop in July, August, September on 3 of the biggest topics that moms struggle with when it comes to a defiant or estranged adult child. So that would be the best way to reach me.
And moms who are not currently going through anything, but they want to learn in advance, because it's always to prepare for the worst. What would they join the group or speak to you one-on-one? How would that work? Or is that something that you're going to be in the process of developing?
That is actually something I'm in the process of developing. That she said that.
Awesome.
Yeah, because it's true. Because I think, right now it's kind of triage, but if we can get some, prevention in those types of areas, it would be super helpful. A lot of moms going through that with teen years, and I remember all of them. So it's a very difficult time. And so, the reason I do what I do, Sunita, is I didn't have a support system. I didn't have a group of other moms going through what I was going through. My therapist, many of my clients also seek therapy, which is awesome. But the therapist I had at the time had 2 toddlers, which she was amazing, but she couldn't relate to me with, what I was going through with a teenager at the time. So that's why I built what I built.
Exactly. I don't have kids at all. So my friends who are going through what I can't really relate, not truly. So then my audience, of course, there's midlife women, but there's also senior women, retired. Their problem may be adult children who are sort of money grubbing, ready for them to pass away. I actually remember a relative, her adult child, probably in her 40s, 50s at the time, told them, don't bother putting her in the will. If you're going to give me anything, give it to me now. And they, of course, weren't ready to give their house or anything like that. So that became an strange situation. So will this help those elderly people,
Yeah.
moms who are going through it.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And you're exactly right. There are a lot of even retired age, a lot of moms that I've worked with in my group even um that have the adult child, some still at home for
Mm.
whatever reason, or still, the mom's still enabling and they're trying to rebuild communication and rebuild the relationship. And it's always a glorious day when we get all this great information about how somebody reconnected or had a good conversation. And so I just walk the path with them because this is a journey. This isn't something that is gone overnight. Unfortunately, I wish it was. And I don't know how long, your audience is going to be dealing with this. I know mine was way too long.
Mm.
And I do feel that I would not have fallen so far into the pit had I had more help.
Yeah.
And I turned to alcohol, but they don't have to, because this is what I do is I walk this path with them.
Wow.
So
I love
yeah.
what you're doing. Please come back. We have to get more and more topics on this and help as many people and guide them towards your workshop just to change their lives. You work too hard. We need
Yeah.
peace. We need, be in a better place in general. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.